U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has confirmed that deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores will face criminal prosecution in the United States following indictments filed in New York, escalating Washington's legal offensive against the former leadership in Caracas. In a public statement, Bondi said the pair would be brought before U.S. courts to answer what she described as a serious federal charges, declaring they would face justice on American soil. Bondi disclosed that Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the Southern District of New York on charges including a narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and weapons-related offenses involving machine guns and destructive devices, while confirming for the first time that Flores was also indicted in the same jurisdiction. The U.S. Attorney General praised President Donald Trump for pursuing accountability and commended the U.S. military for what she described as a successful operation to capture the couple, framing the case as part of Washington's broader campaign against international drug trafficking networks. We now cross live to Arise special correspondent James Liu in New York for the latest on the developing story about the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. It's good to have you with us, James. Now, you've heard Pam Bondi. What are your thoughts on her statement so far regarding the forceful takeover of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela and, of course, the charges brought before the courts?
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. It looks very clear that the U.S. has launched what they're calling a law enforcement action within Caracas, bringing President Maduro and actually using the warrant and the indictment from 2020 to bring him to justice. So it appears that President Maduro is headed to New York City. The U.S. District the Southern District of New York is probably the most important prosecutorial district in the United States, and that is apparently where he is going to be processed and prosecuted. We don't have any sort of further details. This is really news from the Attorney General, and President Trump is planning to speak at 11, where I think we're going to find more detail about exactly what took place. But what is very important about the Attorney General's statement is that they're shaping this as a law enforcement activity that was assisted by the U.S. military, and that using that sort of law enforcement imperative, that is what they're going to say justified their moving into Caracas and bringing President Maduro to justice.
Indeed, James. Now, President Trump had earlier ramped up pressure on the Maduro presidency for weeks on drug smuggling accusations and, of course, others. Now, we witness attacks on alleged drug mules on boats, but it was inconceivable a forceful abduction would be on the table. I'd like your thoughts on that.
I'm sorry, what was the last question?
Yes, we witness attacks on alleged drug mules on boats by the United States military, naval forces as well. But it was inconceivable a forceful abduction would be on the table for Nicolas Maduro. I'd like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, so we didn't really know what the plan was as President Trump and the U.S. military continued to attack these boats. Was it regime change? Was it trying to get President Maduro out of the country? We now know that this was all leading to sort of the capture of President Maduro. You will recall yesterday, President Maduro indicated a willingness to talk. We do know that President Maduro and President Trump did speak last month. They spoke to each other. We don't know exactly what transpired. And, what we don't know is exactly what has been planned, what has been choreographed. I mean, it may be that this has all been sort of split into motion by the two leaders. We just don't know. I think we will learn more this morning when President Trump speaks. But I think it's very important to understand that the U.S. is using the drug activity of President Maduro Maduro to justify this law enforcement capture and bringing him to justice within the United States. Obviously, it violates a number of international laws. He wasn't extradited. I don't even believe Venezuela and the U.S. have an extradition agreement, if there even was one. But yeah, it is a significant escalation. And I think one of the other big issues is what happens in Venezuela. The Nobel Prize winner who won the actual ballot election, the most recent election, she is out of the country, I believe. And the other opposition leader who won the previous election, he is also out of the country. And so Maduro and the sort of regime that he led is really stacked with a number of people willing to step in. The United States has really wanted to prevent more Venezuelans from coming to the United States. And I think any instability there would possibly prompt more to come. And, the other question is, we don't know what's happened to his wife. She has not been indicted in anything that we know of. And, how can the U.S. hold her with her husband? So this is very, very strange and, to be revealed as more details come out, hopefully during this press conference at 11.
Indeed, James. Now, realistically, is the U.S. public in support of the U.S. naval and military campaign in the Caribbean since its inception, and specifically Venezuela? What are the figures on that telling you right now?
Well, we don't necessarily have accurate information about the campaign in Venezuela. It happened in December, and we haven't really had extensive polling since that time. I do know that there was a lot of upset over the suggestion that war crimes may have been committed when the U.S., on having initially bombed a boat, dropped a second bomb that actually killed the survivors. There was a lot of upset and disgust about that potential act. And I think that was one of the reasons that, people were beginning to ask more questions about both the legality and the sort of rightness and the the lawfulness of these actions. And so I think what we're really hoping to get during this press conference is more detail. I think if the U.S. President Trump is able to lay out sort of the reasons and suggest that going after Maduro will allow them to stop these other efforts within the Caribbean, I think there will be support for it. It's very important to say Venezuela is a very small contributor to the actual drug trade in the United States. And so this is not a major gateway between the U.S. and Venezuela. It's not a major gateway for drugs. And so it'll be very interesting sort of what happens and reactions to this upcoming press conference.
Indeed, James. Now, talking about, you mentioned the fact that the stuff about things happening in Venezuela and the reactions there. Are we hearing any statements from the opposition in that country on the U.S. military action? And do you think this is a pivotal moment for them?
Yeah, this is absolutely a pivotal moment for Venezuela. And to this moment, I have not been able to capture any of the opposition movement statements. I do know that the current vice president of Venezuela has asked for proof of life for President Maduro. And I think what he's trying to do is sort of set himself up as the sort of person who's going to take over and take the lead. We'll see whether that actually happens and sort of what comes of that. But I think in general, there is a sense that Venezuela has been obviously attacked and has been violated. And I think you'll see the current leadership under Maduro really come to his defense and really denounce the United States. The question is, what can and should the opposition do? Does the opposition want to come and support this U.S. action? Does this create a path for them to take power? And obviously, the Venezuelan military is very important, and whoever controls the military is likely going to be able to control the country. And, I think that's all going to play out in the coming hours. It would be very surprising to me for the U.S. to launch this effort without the opposition leadership in place in the country. But let's just sort of see what happens over the next few days. We do know the U.S. has cooperated with the opposition when she was going to Oslo to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The U.S. Navy got her out of Venezuela to a third country where she could actually fly to Norway. So there has been cooperation. Let's just see how extensive it is and whether it extends to this post-Maduro period.
Indeed. Now, some world leaders have condemned the taking of Nicolas Maduro, but beyond this, it will seem the U.S. is determined in its course of action. I'd like your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is determined to control the Western Hemisphere. The national security statement that was put out last month really defined and re-energized and really sort of affirmed the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine is from the 19th century when President Monroe was president. And it was basically a warning to England, France, Spain, and all of the European powers that the Western Hemisphere was the domain of the United States. And so this is a real expression of that. Obviously, Cuba is an outlier because it is aligned with Russia and Iran. But for the most part, the U.S. feels as though it dominates and can have oversized influence in the Western Hemisphere. And what was very important about this statement and this reaffirmation of U.S. security, that this was being done in sort of opposition to and a reduction of the U.S. effort in Europe. And so this is a real expression of sort of where President Trump is trying to take the United States. Basically, you cannot do these things in our backyard. We are going to take care of it. And it was a warning to other countries to back off and please don't think you can do anything.
Indeed. James Blue, a Rise Special Correspondent, I'd like to thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Venezuela, US in progress. Good to have you.